Thank you for joining this FIP webinar where we're welcoming Madeleine White, co-founder and editor-in-chief of The Audiences and head of international at digital subscriptions company Poool, where she'll shortly be in conversation with Marc Gendron. Is that okay,
Yeah,
Marc?
you're
Thanks.
doing great.
Publisher of Le Soleil in Quebec. FIP's strapline is connecting global media, and there are around 75 of you in attendance today with a wealth of knowledge across each of your publishing houses. So please do use the chat function and feed into the conversation. And if you've just arrived, please do tell us where you're from and what the weather's like with you today, so we can just to get the conversation started. If you would like to ask a specific question of Marc or Madeleine, please use the Q&A at the bottom because I think the chat might become busy, and so just so that it's not missed. At the bottom of your screen, that is. If you want to look back over any of the key points, a recording will be sent to everybody afterwards, so don't worry about that. You don't have to take notes if you don't need to. And now I'm delighted to hand over to Madeleine and Marc. Welcome to you both. Madeleine, would you like to start by introducing yourself and telling us a bit about Poool?
My pleasure. Thanks, Nikki. Hi, everyone. It's great to see so many people from different parts of the world with different weather conditions. Always a good way to start as a true Brit, British way of starting a conversation. So I'm Madeleine, and as Nikki mentioned, I'm head of international at Poool and co-founder and editor-in-chief of The Audiences. So I hope that they're not unfamiliar names to you all, and I'll present a bit about what we do in a second. But Marc, would you like to introduce yourself?
Why not? So my name is Marc Gendron, as Alistair said. Oh, Nikki, sorry. Okay, there I go. So I'm a journalist like for close to 20 years now. Most of my career, I've been in the editorial management side of the industry. But since like the 4 last years, I've been really involved in digital growth in our organization. And since last fall, I'm also the publisher of Le Soleil. So I wear 2 hats in our news group. I'm publisher of Le Soleil, and I'm also principal director of digital growth.
Yes, amazing job title. And thank you so much for being here with us. So the idea today is, and I've just realized my slides, I need to go back, is to share how the really interesting story of Les Coupes d'Info, and how you've gone from, you've told me you don't mind me saying, Marc, but close to bankruptcy to this whole digital transformation journey as a legacy publisher. I think there's a lot of lessons to learn, and the strategy that they've put in place right now and that they're continuing to do is very, very impressive, and almost putting in practice all of the best practices that we push forward. So very happy to have you here with us, Marc. Just a little word about Poool. So Poool is a membership and subscription suite. So we help digital publishers worldwide to build their audience conversion journeys. So that's engaging, converting, and retaining their audiences. So when I say this, we've got our funnel here. So you acquire your readers, and you want to be able to engage them gradually over time. They're not going to subscribe first time. So that's where our engage product comes in. Whilst access is more about blocking content and asking readers for something in exchange for access to content. So registration walls, newsletter walls, and then your paywall to convert them to subscription. And our engage product can also be used for onboarding and retention, and Flow is our analytics platform. So the idea is that we want to help you at every step of the reader journey in order to monetize your readers at each of these very crucial steps. Just a few things that I'll brush past before we go on to Marc. Do you want to introduce the media group?
Oh, yes, with pleasure. So we're called Les Coop de l'Information. Les Coop de l'Information is a news group where we're specialized in local news, and we're serving like 6 regions of Quebec in Canada and part of Eastern Ontario, most of the French-speaking Ontario region. We've come a long way, as Madeleine said. A couple of years ago, we were like a couple of $100,000 close to bankruptcy. So what we did in the past few years is close to a miracle, I would say. I like to say that it's probably a miracle. Just to give you some context, like 10 years ago, we were part of a larger news group with La Presse, which is a flagship national media here in Quebec. And at that point, they were like knee deep in their digital transformation, and they really did not know how to manage the regional news part of their organization. So what they did at that time is they sold all of the 6 papers at that time to a unique owner who, in the next few years, did, I think, his best to try to give us the means and the drive necessary to make our own digital transformation. At that time, what he did is to invest in an homegrown CMS, our own publication platforms with websites and app. But the fact is that there was a moment where he wasn't having cash enough to keep on investing in our platforms and to keep on investing in our company. So at the end of summer 2019, he went to the tribunal to ask for the protection of the bankruptcy laws here in Canada. And what happened at that time, there's some companies who were interested in buying us back. But what we did, like, it was really an impulsion from the employees. We've decided to come up with a cooperative project where all the employees would become the owner of the organization. And after a long period of time where we invested efforts, tried to come up with financial backings from funds and from banks, we've had enough money, and we got the approval from the tribunal to become the owners of our company. And that's where les Coop de l'Information were born. So it happened like at the end of December 2019. So we fully launched our organization at the early beginning of 2020. And on our plans, we had this idea of launching digital subscriptions over the course of 12 to 18 months. But that was without knowing that there would be a global pandemic a couple of weeks after that. And in March 2020, we had to suspend our weekdays edition because of the fact that we were printing adless editions because economy was at a halt here in Quebec. So if we had sustained this operation longer, we probably would have gone back to bankruptcy and go out of business. So what we did is at that time, we've decided to put all of our efforts into our digital transformation and to launch our digital subscription plans in about 12 to 18 weeks instead of 12 to 18 months. So that's about it for the context and where we've come from. And probably that later I will speak about what we did and where we're going.
So when you were at this point of launching, you decided that you were going to launch digital subscriptions. Your source of revenue were print sales and advertising. Exactly. And advertising digitally. Did you have a digital website?
Yes, we did have a website and news app at that time, but we didn't charge anything to access the content. We were relying mostly on our print revenues, like distribution revenues and advertisement revenues, and we were gaining some share parts in digital advertisement too. But we realized that if we wanted to make sure that we were putting all efforts to becoming sustainable in the digital landscape, digital advertisement revenue wouldn't suffice by themselves. We had to add other revenue sources. So that's why we decided to launch this digital subscription. But for us, it was important that we wouldn't like stop our chances of growing digital advertisement business in favor of switching to subscription first. Mm-hmm. So we've come up with a strategy where we would have like paywalled content, with a strategy where every user would have access to 3 free articles per month. If you created a free account, then you would have 6 free articles per month. And if you signed up to become a fully fledged subscriber, then you would have access to all of our contents. And even then, we had like 3 levels of subscription. The basic one, which we call l'essentiel, where users had access to our digital contents. The digital all-inclusive, where we added the e-paper replica of our editions. Mm-hmm. And the last one, which was called paper and digital all-included, where you had all of that as well as the print edition.
So because that's a really interesting point you bring up, is that you didn't want to jeopardize your existing revenue streams. And I think that's a really important point that a lot of publishers worry about when launching digital subscriptions, especially as a legacy publisher, is that you don't want to, I can't think of the phrase right now, but you don't want to get rid of or kill your existing revenue streams and just when you're looking to be more sustainable by launching digital subscriptions, the idea is to maintain your other revenue streams as well in order to diversify your revenue streams. So how did you ensure that you were maintaining those ad revenues online and maintaining your audience without throwing out readers that aren't going to subscribe? How did you balance that frustration and engagement?
Yeah, what we did at that time, and like it's close to 4 years ago, so I will have to go with my memory for that part. What we did is we've analyzed the traffic and the behavior of our users on our platforms, and we've seen that a huge majority of users, if not like 99% of users, didn't consume more than 1, 2, or 3 articles per month. So for us, it was important that these people, we could still keep on monetizing them by showing them advertisement. And then there was this like 1% of highly engaged users that we felt that we could convince to become subscribers. And that's what happened. These people, they jumped into the subscription bandwagon, and they backed us by giving us like from $10 to $16 per month. This is the range of our subscription plans, to help us with our mission of creating like world-class local news. So that was the argument. But it was clear for us that no sole source of revenue would be profitable enough or sustainable enough to allow us to face future and see, okay, we can only rely on that source of revenue, it will be okay. I think that in the past, and this comes from our print experience, in the past, we've been maintaining our distribution network solely because advertisement was financing these operations. So we could distribute a copy of our print edition and lose $1 in the operation. It wasn't that bad because we knew that advertisement was there to fill up the gap and even make the operation profitable. But this is something that we think has probably accelerated the downgrading of our revenues in print, because at some time advertisers flew out of print to embrace digital, and at that moment our print editions weren't financially sustainable anymore. So that's why we've decided just at the end of last year to completely stop our print operations and to become a fully digital enterprise.
Big decision.
Yes, it is.
So going back to your the number of articles. So Michael, I saw your question, and that how many articles to offer free before the paywall is a huge other question. And actually there's no single reply. I don't know whether anyone's read the article that I published on Winifra, but there's no magic formula. But one really interesting KPI that you mentioned there is actually measuring how many articles the average reader reads, or segmenting your readers into different engagement groups. So for instance, on the Poool dashboard, you do this natively. We have 4 engagement groups. So volatiles, occasionals, regulars, and fans. So fans the most engaged. But if you're anonymous readers, who are maybe, the average is from 80 to 90% of your audience, if they're coming and reading only 1 or 2 articles per month, then that's a brilliant idea gives you a brilliant idea of how many articles you can offer for free per month without blocking these volatile readers who you're monetizing just through advertising and who aren't likely to subscribe. So that's a way of balancing frustration and engagement, right? And then Michael, your question about how do you decide which content to place behind the paywall. So your strategy is metered, Marc.
Exactly.
Yes. And how does because the registration wall plays into that as well. And I think it's a really tricky question, Michael, and it goes back to this, how many articles do you offer for free? But actually, it should be, how many articles do you offer before asking for some form of value in exchange for access? So that value could be signing up for a registry, signing up as a free member. So you create an account, and that's integrated into your journey, Marc, right?
Yeah. Yes, we currently have like 4 article statuses that I would say. There's free articles. We don't use that much free articles apart from content marketing because we feel that somebody has already paid for access to this content. It's the sponsor of the content. So, and we want these content to have the most reach possible. So our advertiser or sponsor is happy with the results. Then there's the paying or premium level, and most of our content is in that category. So it means that it is a paywall content and it counts into the paywall count every month. Then there's the connected one where we require the user to at least have a free account to access these articles. And most of our columnists require to have a free account to access their content. Why did we do that? At first, every content from a columnist or a chronicle was part of the premium content, so it was counted in the paywall just as any other article. But we realized that these content were amongst the most precious that we had and really distinctive. So we were feeling that we could ask a user to like commit a little more by creating at least a free account to access these contents, and it worked. When we did so, we've seen a lift in the number of account created, and we could like pinpoint directly, oh, this article, this text from one of our columnists generated more account creation. And finally, there's the restricted one where there's some articles that we reserve only to paying subscribers. But this is something that we don't do really often. We do it like in a really pinpointed time where we want to measure if it creates a lift or not. But we're still in the growth phase of our digital legacy. Well, what did it say? Adventure. Whoa, adventure is closer to the truth. So it's something that we're using like really sparsely, not to create some issues. What we would like to avoid is to force a user to sign up or to subscribe for 1 or 2 articles, and then for them to churn at the end of the month because they add exactly what they wanted. So these are the 4 levels of articles that we have.
Yeah, I'm actually going to share this slide that kind of visualizes it a bit more. So in summary, balancing frustration and engagement, you can continuously increase engagement on site, but that's not how you monetize your readers. You do that through giving access to articles, through your newsletters, through push notifications, interactions with the community, whatever. You want to continuously increase this engagement. But the frustration is where the paywall comes in, or something that blocks you or stops you from doing something, or even advertising as a form of frustration or bad user experience. And the higher the engagement, the more that counteracts the frustration. So if each reader on your site has a different level of engagement and has a different context, then it means that they're going to react differently to different levels of frustration. Someone who's very engaged and you're blocking them with a paywall on their first article that they read today, even though they come to your site every week, say, or every day, they're going to be more likely to convert because their high level of engagement counteracts that frustration, and it means that it persuades them to convert. Whereas someone who's lower engaged, who comes only once a month or finds you just for the first time through Google search or maybe more social media, then a paywall on the first article, they're going to be so frustrated, they're just going to find content elsewhere. And it's really interesting that is actually what defines conversion. There was an article on the audiences by Spanish consultant Ismael Nafria, who wrote about Argentina's Clarin and how they defined what makes an article that converts, and they defined it as a decisive note. So it's that moment of like, you're convinced to convert because you've got this engagement already, and that article just tips you over the edge. You get frustrated a bit. And this is exactly what you're doing. So you're segmenting into 3 pillars. So you've got based on content type that you just defined to us. Then you've got based on the user's profile. So anonymous traffic, versus logged in traffic, so people who are registered but not subscribed, versus paying subscriber. And then based on acquisition channels, that's really important as well, because someone coming from your newsletter is already engaged, but someone coming from Facebook or maybe Google News is less engaged. And this all looks a bit scary when you see it at first, but this is it all in practice on the dashboard, right? I don't know whether you want to explain any of these, Mark, but it kind of shows the segmentation.
With pleasure. When we first launched our paywall, we were in our previous CMS, and the paywall logic was all homegrown, and it was extremely static. So we couldn't move away from the three articles, 6 articles are all inclusive. When we've changed our CMS and we've redone all of our platforms, we've switched at that time to Poool to become our paywall service provider. And what Poool offered us the possibility to do is to, like, as Madeleine said, to create like more tailored strategies in regards of content type, status of the user, and acquisition channel. So yes, there are a lot of lines there, but it means that we're able to create like really tailored experiences for people in regards of their status and the way the place that they're coming from. One of the things that it allowed us to do, and maybe you're aware of that, but here in Canada, we've had a situation last year where the government of Canada voted a law, which is called Law C-18, which was demanding like the tech giants, and the ones that were targeted were Facebook and Google, to compensate the media industry for the drainage of the advertisement revenues that were traditionally in publishers' pockets, and now we're all in the tech giants' pocket. So what happened at that time, that there was a confrontation between the tech giants and the government of Canada, and Facebook and Google threatened us to stop sharing our contents, whether on Facebook and Instagram or in search results in Google. So what we did, like in a hurry, we've decided to create new journeys for people who were coming from these two channels. Problem is, Facebook put their menace to execution last August, like August 8th, and I do remember the date because it was something which was really not funny for us. But Google were waiting at the end of December to decide if they were putting their menace to execution or not. So what we were able to achieve with this strategy is that everybody that was coming from search, they were seeing whether they were if they were anonymous and coming from search, they would see a paywall at their first article, but a non-blocking paywall. So they could bypass it if they want to access the content, but that paywall was asking for a soft conversion. We've asked them to sign up to one of our free newsletters that we were sending in the evening. It's called Le Résumé du Soir. This newsletter was launched like 3 years before that, and it took 3 years to build the sending list to 46,000 receivers. And in a couple of weeks, we were from 46,000 people signed up to 104,000 people signed up, just because of that soft conversion paywall. And what is impressive is that it's not people who were signing up and then unsubscribing from the newsletter a couple of days after that. We've kept a healthy sending list, which is really impressive. And for us, it's really a winning strategy, because asking for this soft conversion, people are like engaging slightly, becoming, yes, it's the one on the left there. So we're only asking people sign up for free, and you will have access to this content, and you will be tapping directly into the source of information. You're not relying on some third parties. And yes, what we wanted to achieve with that is to create this habit of reading our content, and newsletters is a really good way to create this habit. So every day we're sending some lines into the fishing pond, and most of the time people are gonna read 1 or 2 articles, and it's a good way to build the habit of consuming and to slightly push the user farther inside the famous acquisition funnel. So that was a huge success for us, and it gives us a lot of confidence for many more strategies that we might come up with in the next few days, next few weeks.
Yeah, I think there's two brilliant kind of takeaways there from launching a strategy, a digital reader revenue model from zero without putting other revenue source or audience at risk. Is firstly to segment based on different levels of engagement and to present different journeys. So here, for instance, it is in French, but we've got access illimité, which is unlimited access for quite a few groups. So groups that you know are not likely to convert. So you can actually leave all content open, aside from maybe that small section of your site that those few articles that you mentioned that you're reserving for subscribers. But for your regular content, you can leave it actually all open for those who are not likely to subscribe. So when you're launching, say in your first few months, if you just want to test out the waters, then you could only block your fan readers or those coming from one of your newsletters. And we've got kind of the all users segment at the bottom, which is a general scenario for anyone that doesn't fit into one of these boxes, is 3 articles for free and then create your free account. And then I think the second best practice is that if we're talking about a successful in conversion is about balancing frustration and engagement, then for those who aren't going to subscribe when you first present the paywall, actually the goal then should be to increase their level of engagement, right? In order to move them up through the funnel. And so then when you do frustrate them, they're less likely to turn away and leave, and they're more likely to actually partake in that value exchange. So what you're brilliantly doing is presenting 2 soft conversion steps. So we've got a newsletter wall so that each conversion step is about a value exchange. That could be monetary, like a paywall. But here it's about asking someone to sign up to your newsletter in exchange for access to content. Or the second one is about a registration wall. And from a more general best practice point of view, a newsletter wall is brilliant for launching. It's really successful, great for growing your audience. And in fact, we used it on the audiences for a long time. And for collecting emails, for targeting marketing campaigns, and getting readers to read you on a regular basis, building a habit. But the next step is registration, and that's kind of the next stage in I think most publishers' journeys post launching a digital reader revenue model, is to establish that very close relationship with the reader. So by converting them into a logged member, you can track their ID, you have their user ID, you can track them across all platforms, all devices. You can increase monetization through advertising because you've got targeted ads. You can collect data to then personalize their experience, improve their user journey, and also use that to personalize even the paywall journey. Because once you've collected that information about who they are, you can use that to present the paywall at the right time, with the right messaging, with the right offer, the right pricing, and in the right way, and kind of build that engagement. And that's kind of the stage that you're at now, developing this model.
Yeah, absolutely. And I would say that one of the next things that we're going to be working on much more is to get out of the traditional metered paywall to adopt like a more dynamic paywall strategy. And just as you said, there's some people that might never see the paywall, but there's probably something that could get from them. Whether it's a sign up to a newsletter, or maybe it's ask them to watch a video advertisement in order to unlock an article. So this is something that Poool allows us to do, and it's still on our next steps of things that we want to test. And I'm pretty sure that it's gonna be successful, because in the past, what was something that refrained us, that slowed us down, is the fact that everything was so rigid that even though we had an idea, we would have to invest a lot of time and efforts into developing this idea without even knowing if it was worth it or not. With Poool, what we can do is we can do A/B tests and compare. There's the traditional way with the metered the metered way, but we could try another way, which will show us, are we moving in the right direction or not? I'll give you one quick example. All of our click-through messages, conversion messages for subscription was I subscribe. So, and it was always that in the past. And we came up with the idea, let's go with the message like start my free trial. and we'll see if it works. And we did an A/B test, and we've realized rapidly that start my free trial was much more efficient than I subscribe, because people felt that, okay, I'm moving a step further, but it's not that engaging. It's free for the first month, so okay, I'll test it, and it worked. Conversion were higher, and retention was as good, because people didn't feel that they didn't get the value for which they signed up. So it's like we're having an incredible tool that we're only using a slight percentage of these possibilities right now.
Yeah, the value proposition is such a crucial part, and being able to test those small, very small, in the grand scheme of things, aspects can have a huge difference. We've got a few questions. What was the criteria between free and premium articles? So how did you decide which articles you wanted to block fully? I think that's a great question for digital transformation.
Well, we've had many discussions around this topic at first, and then we've decided that every editorial content would at least be a paywalled content. And that's when we've decided that content marketing would be free. Still, we keep this flexibility if we wanted, and I'll give you an example. It wasn't the case at the time, but if it would to be happening again, we would probably do this. Like content that was about COVID-19, where we feel that it's part of our responsibility to give access to this information to a higher amount of people, we would probably decide that these contents are free. But if we do so, I think that it's important that we tell the users that we're doing so. So not only opening the content, but we could like add a message in the article saying Les Coop de l'Information has decided to give free access to every content about COVID-19 because we feel that it's part of our responsibility, and blah, blah, blah. And ask with a little message saying, please support our mission, or please support us and sign on to a newsletter, subscribe, or anything like that. So everything that you're doing must be done in order for you to grow the engagement of the users and to create like potential rendezvous with them later on.
Mm-hmm. I love you, Marc, because you just talk about all the best practices that, like, yeah, we talk about on the audiences and in general on the industry. So
I'm a heavy reader of the audiences, so probably that's
that's again 3 very good points. So firstly, to be transparent with your readers, like tell them when you're giving them an article for free, tell them how many articles they have access to per month, tell them, let them know that I don't know, that, yeah, they have 3 more articles left, or that you're opening this up because it's elections. We've got a lot of elections this year, or sports content, for instance. The second one is visibility of your premium offer. And I think this is crucial for launching digital subscriptions. You may only launch with your fan readers to begin with, but let others know that you're launching, whether that be it with a banner, with just adding the subscribe button, with little kind of icons on your premium content, and make it an action for them to read the article. So what I mean by that is that we talked about value exchanges and that level of frustration, but the frustration can be so minimal. Like it could be literally just clicking the X button. But the fact of having to do that action means they've read it. They know now that you're launching subscriptions, or that you've got this access to this article for free. But by doing that, they're like actioning something and accepting that, okay, I do have access to this for free. Thank you. And then finally, I think that when you're talking about criteria between free and premium articles, I love that you said how every article could be premium. I think that's incredibly powerful for your editorial team and the quality of content that they are producing, making sure that every article could be sold, could be for a subscriber. But also, I think this is changing the way we're writing, or journalists are writing articles, because if you're blocking the article halfway down, you don't want to give all the information out at the beginning. Exactly. Talked about, like, journalists get taught the traditional, was it upside down inverted pyramid?
Exactly.
But now it's like an hourglass shape. So you let the sand run and then you've got to stop them, but before you've given away the key information. So it's like a kind of cliffhanger that you want to leave it on, so that then you convert them and placing the wall at the right point, and testing that again, like making sure you're testing the visibility of your paywall.
yes, there's an article in the Audiencers that was written by Eric Lebras, if I recall, specifically on the hourglass technique. And our journalists here at LeCoop, we have had a training session with Eric Lebras specifically for that, because as you mentioned, when we were learning our crafts at the journalist school, they told us put all the most important information at first, and then the more you're diving deeper in the text, you're going into more granular information. It's okay, but if you want to like create some expectations in the mind of the reader, if you want to convince him that it's worth it to click on the button to like open the rest of the article, you have to create that kind of cliffhanger at the end of the lead, and to like I would say just pique their curiosity, so they want to know more. But it's extremely different than what we were used to be doing, especially coming from print, because it's different than we used to be doing. And one of the biggest challenge that we're facing in this digital transition, it's not linked to technology, it's not linked to platforms, it's linked to our own mindset. Adopting a digital mindset is probably the biggest challenge that somebody can face in our organization or in our industry, because we've learned to do our things, our job in such an industrial and linear way, that now that we're in digital, knowing that we're not working for a group of reader, which is only one person that you have in mind. You must have multiple audiences in mind, and their needs, their preoccupations, their habits, they're completely different. And if you're facing that like a one big homogeneous group of people, you're probably wrong. And it's not the distribution or printing process that should decide when your article must be ready to be put on the page. It's the availability of the reader. It's the availability of its attention that should decide when you publish an article, and how you create it, how you deliver it, the way that you're telling your story. You have to have your audience in mind at every step of your creation process.
Entirely. And it's a process. Digital transformation doesn't happen overnight, sadly. And like, just a little plug for Poool. I mean, that's why having a solution or something that means that you can use you can build different journeys for different types of readers, I think it's incredibly important. If you know that you've got different types of users and you have the possibility of treating them differently, the way that they're the most likely to subscribe, or you're most likely to monetize them, then that's incredibly powerful. We've got a few questions in the questions section. So someone's asking about recapping the point about segmenting audiences. So what I mean by this is that different people talk about different types of engagement groups, but at Poool we have a native segmentation in the dashboard. So it's based on volatiles, occasionals, regulars, and fans. So 4 engagement groups, and they develop in level of engagement. And then you can also add connected readers, subscribers, and ex-subscribers. And this is based on an RFV score, so recency, frequency, and volume of visits per user. And we have a general kind of way of regulating that for the client based on their audience. But then they can also change that themselves, or also change it to their own engagement groups. And the other question is, how did you track the most engaged articles and sessions? Was that via views per session in Google Analytics? And did you assess that weekly or monthly? So I think that was our question about metering. So how many articles to offer for free? How did you work out views per session, Marc?
Well, when we first launched, it was like some kind of leap of faith. As I said, we took a look at our numbers, divided the amount of page views by the amount of unique users that we had. We even used the Google News. How is it called? I don't remember the exact name, but where it categorizes your user into 3 groups, like anonymous, loyals, and brand lovers. So we use these tools to try to assess what should be the like optimal recipe to begin with, but we had to make like an arbitrary decision about that. What we can do now with the use of Poool and other measuring tools, we're using Chartbeat too. It gives us like a much clearer idea of what is the sweet spot for the users. But as I said, it would probably be an error for us to stick to a really large group strategy. And the more that we're moving on, and I guess that the ideal state would be for us to be able to have like one paywall strategy per user. And there are tools that allow us to do this. I know that there's a partnership between Sophie and Poool, which does exactly that. Like it can manage the paywall and show a paywall when the user is the most engaged or the most ready to take an action. I don't say that we're gonna be adopting this technology soon, but this is something that is in the back of our minds for quite some time. Because you know we are 6 local media. Our potential of growth has a definite potential. So we won't be able to grow as the New York Times can grow because their market is the whole world. In our case, it's not true. We have like 6 limited territories. So for us, optimizing conversion at every step of the funnel is probably the gateway to financial sustainability. Because, well, I would be happy to face like an unlimited growth, but I think that it's probably more than a fantasy than anything else. So optimizing the every step is probably the course for us to go.
Yeah. And I think that I'd really like to come back to that point in a sec. Remind me if I don't. But in terms of you were mentioning about treating each reader as an actual individual and an individual journey. And I obviously that is like maybe the ideal world. But I think that there's so much power for a legacy publisher moving to digital reader revenue to actually start slowly and launch and make mistakes and learn over time and progress and develop your strategy over time with without using AI. Everyone's talking about AI doing everything for us. And obviously there is so much power in it, but I think actually doing these things manually and understanding your audience, doing that A/B test manually, but knowing that actually your fan readers react well to this, then it can empower your teams to learn about how each type of reader is acting and how they're behaving, what they react to, what makes them convert. And that can be powerful for your teams to learn about digital revenue, what that means, how you can grow and where your optimizations can be. So I think, especially when you're launching, starting small and developing over time, then adding gradually more dynamicity and more user segments as you understand each segment more is
exactly. And if I can jump in, one of the archaism that we've kept with us from print when we first launched our paywall was this obsession of coming up with the perfect solution at the first time. And this is, if I had to go through the process again, this is something that I would never do. And when we made the change to our new CMS and our new paywall solution, that was like our main objective was start small and start iterating from what we're learning, because it's the only way to make some real improvements over time. If you find the right recipe at the first attempt, it's only luck. It's not talent. It's not anything that you did right or wrong. It's only luck. So the only way that you can move forward is testing new things and learning in your journey. Sometimes you're gonna miss the point, but it's not dramatic. That's the good thing of making like small tests with a small group of users, and you see, okay, am I moving straight into the future or straight into a wall? And then you can reassess and start again. But if you're moving in the right direction, then you can just increase the temperature, like enlarge the group to which you're showing the offer, and then readjusting over the course of time. So one of the other component of the digital mindset change is that don't try to be perfect at first. Start iterating and learn from every test that you're doing.
Brilliant, wise words. Thank you, Mark. And we'll write that on a quote and put it in the back of the room.
I will sell t-shirts with that.
Please do. You've got the Audiences Festival. Mark's coming to the Audiences Festival in London, everyone, by the way. You should all come here. You've seen his energy. It's amazing. I'm excited. So coming back to the funnel. So this is actually your kind of Bible for the next few, well, for your optimizations. And it's a iterative process. But basically, who was it? Michael, I think you were talking, sorry, I can't see the chat now, but you were asking about conversion metrics or benchmarks. So it's a very tricky topic because most publishers measure subscriber conversion rate as a single metric, but there's a lot of problems with this metric. One, there's way too many zeros after the decimal place. So it's quite depressing, especially when you're just moving to digital reader revenue models. Like you want to empower and encourage and enthuse your team. But if you've got a really low decimal place kind of conversion rate, you're not going to convince them of the value of digital subscriptions. Secondly, it's really hard to benchmark yourself against others on the market because, like Mark's been saying, you're a very unique case. And so how can you compare your conversion rate with the New York Times or even a local regional group in France who may have the same language of publication, but the other side of the world, different regions, different people and behaviors. And obviously in Canada, you've got different laws as well, like you said about Facebook.
Absolutely.
Then finally, it's really hard to understand where you're losing readers because you've got, as we all know, and we've discussed today, there's so much that goes on before a reader decides to convert. It's not like you go on Amazon and you find what you're looking for and you buy 5 minutes later. The journey to conversion can happen over years. So obviously we can't break that down into years, but what we can do is break it down into kind of a journey towards subscription. So this is what we've done at Poool, and it's broken down into 5 steps. So firstly, you can think of it like a funnel. So you've got your total users, total traffic on your website. Then out of that total traffic, how many readers visit a premium article versus a free article? So how many readers are likely to be blocked by the paywall or have the possibility of being blocked by the paywall? So if a reader is only ever visiting a free article that doesn't have a paywall on it, they're never going to have the chance of seeing the paywall or being blocked by it. So that's losing traffic. That's traffic that are never going to have the opportunity to convert via the paywall. Then the third step is how many readers who are on a premium article actually see the paywall. And this is the shocking one, because when people start tracking this, they realize how low and shockingly low this metric is, because our benchmark has found that sometimes over 50% of your readers who are on a premium article never see the paywall. They never scroll far enough, or advertising blocks or is loading faster, and they don't scroll down far enough, or they're on mobile, so the page is smaller, so the article takes up more space. So it takes like 5 or 6 scrolls to actually see the paywall. So when publishers are spending loads of time working out the value proposition or the wording on the wall or the offer, then what's the point of doing that if 50% of your users are never actually seeing this wording? Then out of this number, out of the total number of readers who see the paywall, how many actually click on the paywall? So this is all about optimizing your design, your wording, your offers, your payment, and then how many actually convert. So all of the conversion funnel. And this has been some big like stepping stones in your journey, Mark, right? And I think you're talking about how you're working on click-through rate right now and doing some tests. I think you mentioned about reducing steps in the subscription funnel.
Yeah. Yes.
Yeah, go for it.
What we're working on right now, and we will probably be able to deliver this, like if it's not this week, it's going to be next one, is like currently, if I show the paywall and I'm able to convince a user to subscribe, he's going to click on the button and he's going to be brought on our subscription page. And what we want to do is to reduce these steps and reduce the friction points. So what we're going to release, like, as I said, in the next few days, is the ability to subscribe directly inside the paywall. So you're gonna have all the fields necessary for you to enter your credit card number, and the transaction is gonna be done on the spot without you ever leaving the article. So just doing this, we're pretty confident that it's gonna allow us to convert even more readers. And then the next step is gonna be to offer a reader to create an account directly inside the paywall too. So at every time, it's reducing the frictions between this urge for a user to to convert or to commit to you, and the time where it's already completed. So this is something that we're working on and pretty confident that it's going to make a huge difference.
Yeah, it's again frustration engagement. If you've got too many form fields to fill in, too many scrolls, too many clicks, then you're going to give up or not convert.
Exactly. Every step that you add, you're losing people.
Exactly. And there's one client that we worked with before who integrated payment into the wall, and they increased conversion rates by 40% on that wall. Wow. Which is incredible.
I'm expecting these results too, Madeleine.
I've made the promise now.
Yeah.
But it's all about testing and how we can share all of these amazing use cases and ideas. The only way that others on this call or other publishers in the world can know whether it's going to work with your audience is by testing. And equally, within your own audience, which is unique, maybe fan readers will be ready to convert in the wall like that, whereas your anonymous readers, they are not ready. That's too much. That feels like such a big step, and so they don't want to do that yet, and they maybe don't have trust in you yet, so they don't want to give over their card details straight away. Nikki, thanks for the reminder. Michael, I was going to say I can reply to you separately if you want to message me on LinkedIn or something, because I think that's a very specific use case. More than happy to help. Maybe we can connect on LinkedIn afterwards. I'll share my connection. But back to the benchmarks, what then we can do is work on benchmarks for each of these kind of steps, and then optimize where you're losing readers and where in the funnel you can optimize. So it makes you, especially as legacy publishers or those who are just launching, maybe have a smaller team or you need internal buy-in, then you can work out exactly where you're losing readers in the funnel and put the resources in the right place. And I mean, your click-through rates are very impressive. And we were saying earlier how you didn't even know this.
Yeah.
But I found asked our team for a comparison to the market average of click-through rate, which is 1.1%, whereas you guys for your paywall is 2.8%. So I think you're right about this button, which says like start my free trial. I think that's a great kind of action, isn't it? It's saying, let's go.
Yeah.
Rather than subscribe. And it feels less commitment to begin with. It's a kind of almost taking on that soft conversion concept.
Really proud about that.
Yeah, I know. Article on the audience is coming soon. Yeah. Thanks, Nikki, for sharing the link. What do you analyze? Do you analyze the cancellation reasons? Great question, Philippe. Do you, Mark?
Well, yes, we do. We do, and well, some people. Well, I wouldn't say that most of them is like they become like fed up with content and bad news. So this is one of the reasons where the when the why they cancel. There's some that have some criticism about our platforms. And for that we're always working on them to improve them over time. And what is important for me to share with you is that once a user unsubscribes, for us, it's not the end of the relationship. So we're doing things to try to convince them to stay with us. To be quite honest, we don't do a lot of pricing strategy. We do like two things. The first one, we're doing a Black Friday promotion, and it's the only promo that we're doing in the year. And the other one is to on our retention or win back campaigns. So what we do is once a user's subscription is terminated, they get into a win back campaign where we're sending them an email proposing to them to become subscribers again to a preferential rate. And we're A/B testing the rates, like you can pay $1 per month for 3 months or $2 per month for 3 months, and all of that. And we're in the midst of this test. And in the end, we're gonna keep the recipe that gives us the most positive outcome. So we might have lesser subscribers that stay at $3 for 3 months, but in the end, we're making more money out of that. So it's probably the thing that we're gonna keep. So once a user signs off, it's not the end of the relationship unless he wants you not to contact him anymore. And it's the same thing for the when a user creates a free account. One of the things that we do is that we're getting these people into an onboarding campaign. So making the conversation ongoing is really important. So when a user signs up for a free account, it gives us the information for us to get in touch into them. And they get into this campaign where we're highlighting all of the advantages of being a free user. And by the way, if you would become a paying subscriber, these are all the advantages that you would have access to. So always communicating with the audiences, I think it's like the basis of a growth strategy.
Completely agree. And I think that applies internally as well, because I think as soon as we talk about cancellation or churn, it needs to come back to acquisition as well. And whilst print, teams can be very separate and work in silos, that's not the same in digital reader revenue models. And it comes as part of this transformation, is that teams need to work better and build bridges between each other. But reducing churn starts from the moment someone comes onto your site.
Exactly.
And I love that you mentioned about onboarding for registered users. We've talked a lot about this on the audiences. It's a brilliant opportunity to lead someone through an onboarding journey where you get them to sign up to your newsletter, download your app, or any other, or discover more of your content, discover other features of your website that maybe they haven't checked out yet, and promote your subscription. And we've actually found that registration pre-subscription increases the lifetime value of your reader post-subscription, which is incredible when you think about it. So actually, there's been a lot of talk about, should you quickly subscribe someone, get someone, I've forgotten what the word is.
The cyclone technique.
Thank you. Yes. we're like this, Mark. The cyclone technique, where you get someone acquired through a free trial quickly and then you work to retain them. But actually, I think personally, I really believe in the acquiring slowly and building that soft engagement strategies. If you build the habit, form the habit through newsletters and coming to your website every day, or consuming content, being engaged in what you do, plus registering, and so you collect their data and you understand who they are, you're more likely to subscribe, get them to subscribe and stay in the long term and have a higher lifetime value, more loyal to your product. And actually, Philippe, going back to your question, you might actually understand the cancellation reasons beforehand, because I don't know, maybe they've stopped using this one product or one part of your website that they've used since the very beginning. And you can reach out and ask them why. Like those kind of preventative signals, like churn signals, can allow you to put preventative measures into place. So intelligent acquisition is an important subject as well. We're doing
that sounds like a one for another webinar, I think.
Yeah, I was about to say.
We could do a whole session on that, couldn't we?
Come back next week.
It is 4 o'clock, so I'm just going to say thank you to you both for a fascinating session that was really informative. I've put Madeleine's link in the chat if you'd like to connect with her on LinkedIn. I'm sure, Mark, you'd be happy with that as well if anybody wants to get in touch with you for a first-hand.
Feel free to connect with me.
Yeah, do connect with them both. Our next event is the Fit World Congress from the 4th to the 6th of June in Cascais in Portugal. I know Madeleine will be there. I will be too. Madeleine is also running her own Audiences Festival in London. What's the date for that, Madeleine?
21st of June. And we've got a retention-minded acquisition workshop the day before in London, if anyone wants to join.
Awesome. So please do come along to Congress or the Audiences Festival. And I've put a link to Congress in the chat as well for you to find out more about Congress. And just thanks everybody for coming, and thanks to Madeleine and Marc.
Thank you so much. Thanks for
It was a
having us.
pleasure.
Thanks for everyone's questions.